Think about how many times a day you use technology. We use it to connect, to learn, to communicate, to work. And think about how children are growing up today with this technology. And their school experience might look a lot different than what ours looked like growing up. The topic of my speech today is going to be answering the questions: is the usage of gadgets in the classrooms harmful or helpful? I was formerly a preschool teacher for 5 years in an educational institution where we did not use technology, and I saw the benefits of this, and this subject has always interested me, so I've done some more research on the subject. I'm going to be covering two main points today. One, what are the pros and cons of using technology in the classroom? And two, what can educators do to help students in the 21st century? So first, let's cover some of the pros and cons. Are electronics helpful in the classroom? In the research I've done, I found that there are both pros and cons to using electronics in the classrooms. Some of the pros include peace of mind for parents and students, access to online learning, instant answers for the curious, and wider access to information. Some of the cons include distraction from schoolwork, access to inappropriate materials, cyberbullying, and the ability to cheat. According to a Harvard study, 35% of students admitted to using their smartphones to cheat on tests and exams. According to an article by Resilient Educator, some school districts have seen great improvement in allowing digital devices in the classroom. However, students need to be taught online safety, the use of judgment determining good quality sources of information, and restraint for personal use in the classroom. In other words, they need to learn about digital literacy and digital citizenship. In the articles that I read, there was no definitive answer to whether or not electronics should be restricted in the classrooms, but that there were both pros and cons. Whether or not schools allow them is up to their policies. But it's undeniable that technology is unavoidable in the 21st century. And so it's important to teach students the proper way to engage with technology in a way that's going to benefit them in the long run. And so now that I've talked about some of the pros and cons, let's talk about what educators can do to help students in the 21st century. Expert and educator Blair Lent shared that knowing how to properly engage with cell phones is now an important life skill and learning tool. In one case study conducted by the Department of Psychology at the University of Liverpool, they found that the problem is not actually electronics themselves, but the students' inability to multitask and self-regulate on those devices. They discovered that the roots of distractions seemed to be related to the learning environment and learning engagement. So they suggested that teachers should enhance their teaching delivery process through well-supported frameworks in order to enhance student learning engagement, while at the same time, they should alert students of the consequences of multitasking in their own learning process. And so in conclusion, I've discussed what some of the pros and cons are of using electronics and what we as educators can do. Ultimately, it's up to the schools and the teachers to decide if they will allow electronics in the classrooms, but technology is a part of our society and will only be advancing as time moves on. There's certainly both pros and cons to using them, but since it's unavoidable in our everyday lives, maybe we should move from should we allow electronics to how can we help students learn how to use these amazing tools in a way that's most effective for their learning.